What is going on, everyone? Steve O Supremo here, and I am just another game collector. And you know what, guys? It hits me every once in a while. The old days, the early days of the YouTube collecting and gaming scene. Sometimes I just think back about how it was back then, making videos in the early days, the channels I used to love to watch that unfortunately just are no longer around making content anymore. I know, and it stinks a little bit. Like I think about all these great channels who had really good people on there talking about their passion of video game collecting and the games they like to play, and they just stopped making videos. But then there are some still going strong. But I think about how it was back then, with how it was just so much simpler and how you really could feel the passion and the love that a person had for whether it was collecting or playing video games, or when they talk about and did a review on a game. It wasn't a like a review you would see on a video game website. It was like discussion videos where people would sit down and have a well thought out 20-30 minute conversation about a video game that they loved or just collecting. And I just love that. I ate it all up back in the day. But everything has changed these days. It's a different scene out there. You can't really do, people don't really watch stuff like this anymore. There are channels who are successful at it, but it seems like these days a lot of the successful content is just about people going out, going video game hunting and showing you what they're going to sell. It's not about really adding anything to their collection anymore. It's about, hey, look how much money I can get for these video games. And there are some channels who used to, back in the day, it was all about the collecting aspect. I think the most egregious example of this is the Pixel Game Squad these days. I stopped watching those guys a while back now. It's content I'm not into anymore. I think they're targeted more to a younger audience these days, even though they're around my age, if not a few years younger. Um, but I just feel like I'm watching some people who just never really matured yet on that channel. And it's okay. I know we all want to keep that inner child in us because we all love playing video games, but it is okay to mature in certain ways too. Uh, and not still act like a 15 or 16-year old when you're almost 40. But the main reason I stopped watching their stuff, other than all the, I just can't handle all the edits and everything too, all the quick fancy cuts and everything. It's just not for me. Like I said, more of a younger audience. But they used to be a channel that was about collecting. They looked, I thought they had a passion for games that they wanted to add to their collection and grow a collection. It's the complete opposite now. They're a channel that's focused on going out to the flea markets to go game hunting to make money and sell video games. It's not about adding to the collection anymore. It's not about the pursuit of adding that stuff to your collection or wanting to keep it. It's about the pursuit of profit, is what their channel has turned into. And that's just not content I want to watch. I don't want to watch people go out and buy video games that they're just going to sell. Now, if it's someone who's going out going game hunting and they're going to be adding that stuff to their collection, that's another thing. I love seeing, like, oh man, you found that game and it gets to go on your shelf and now you get to cherish it and own it as part of your collection. That's awesome. But just to see you go out to find stuff to go sell to make money, I'm not in that anymore. And those guys, that's what they turned into. So that's why I stopped watching them. And that's the difference. Like back in the day, it was that passion of collecting, wanting to own it, keep it in your collection, and then people who would speak and do reviews of the games. And you just don't see much of that anymore. Like I said, it's all about this thrifting stuff and everything. And some channels like the grandfathers of the YouTube gaming community, where I put them at, are Pete Dorr. That's why we have Ico here, and Johnny Millennium, the happy console gamer himself. And that's why we have Dragon Quest here representing the whole Johnny. Because again, without these channels, I mean, they were the early, like I said, the grandfather pillars of this community. And they did so much with showing off, collecting, video game collecting. Pete Dorr was more of the video game collecting side of things. He would still talk about the games he loved and go into discussions about them, like Eco and Shadow of the Colossus and all these other oddball games. But then it's really a collecting channel. He would give you tips on collecting, show off his collection, tell you stuff you should be on the lookout for. Uh, Happy Console Gamer over here, though, was more about his deep thoughts into a video game or a franchise or a series. And you could just sense the passion every time Johnny's talking about either a Dragon Quest or a game that he loves. You can tell this is a guy who truly loves the industry and the hobby and getting these games and talking about them. So just fell in love with those channels. And then there's the smaller oddball in channels that you guys probably never heard of. And unfortunately, you'll never get a chance to enjoy their content just because all their videos have been taken down off of their channels. One example here I have, we're showing off Dark Cloud because Benzo8686 was a big fan of Level 5. And man, it just stinks. If you guys could enjoy his content today, again, he would sit there just in front of a camera. Sometimes you'd get a little bit of gameplay clips from something he was talking about. But the way he could talk about a game, if it was for 20 minutes, 5 minutes, it just had my attention the whole time because he was so good about speaking about the game and the franchises he loved. But unfortunately, like I said, you'll never get to see it because all his videos have been pulled. Again, with another creator, Ballin' Nick, 1982, RPG fan, big time RPG gamer. Used to love going to hear his thoughts on new RPGs and stuff he's been playing or old ones. All the videos gone. There's some out there though. My AGP co-host from back in the day, another gaming podcast. Hey, go watch those episodes if you want to see some of the older content from the earlier YouTube days and other gaming podcasts. We have some episodes still up on YouTube. But me, Dustin Christ, Doomwaves, Chance, and later on, Alex Return to Mother Base. Alex Return to Mother Base still makes great videos in sort of the old YouTube ways. Just sitting, talking about games in front of his camera. And it's excellent stuff. And then we got Dustin Christ, which he's not making any videos anymore, but you can still go access his entire old library. So you can still hear his thoughts on RPGs like Dragon Quest and the Final Fantasies and stuff like that. You can still go enjoy that content from back in the old days of how we used to do it. And again, you just hear the passion in their voices of how much they really enjoyed these games and how much they enjoyed collecting back in the day. And even today, the one's still going. But it just stinks how much the game has changed these days. Not as far as just channel growth. It's not. It has nothing to do with how big your channel can get off of the content you're making. It's just about the content that's coming out. The content just seems about going out on the hunt and how much stuff is worth and how much I'm going to make off of it, rather than going out for a hunt and then this is what's going in my collection, or talking about a game, or really going into it with a discussion about why you love this game. Another channel that's still going strong these days, even though they had controversy, I think is a great example of a person who does not really reviews. I mean, they're labeled as reviews, but he does good in-depth discussions on them. And that's Pro Jared. I know he had his controversy, which I think he came clean from, which everything was, I think, all in his favor that had happened a few years back. But he just does such a great job with his reviews on games because, again, it's a well thought out discussion. It's not just like a 5-minute quick take on a review of a game. It's like a 30-minute, 45-minute discussion in depth on a game. And I love that kind of stuff. I know people these days, everyone's in a rush. They don't have time to want to sit and watch these things. They want their information now, quick, and in a hurry. But that's not me. I'm old school. I like the longer form content. And again, it's just different these days. So there are a lot of channels I unfortunately had to stop watching just because they kind of change with the times and are doing the same thing. But they're still the old guard holding it down, like Pete, like Johnny, like Alex turned to Mother Base. They're still holding it down for us out there. And again, to all the ones that are no longer with us here making content, Splatter Trigger, Quick Freeze, like so many who just no longer make content that I used to love from back in the day. Man, hats off to them because they did pave a way for a lot of us to really want to get into the scene ourselves and make content. And I wish Some channels still had their content up for you to watch, but just unfortunately, it's not there anymore. So, what do you guys think? Have you guys been around since the old times in the early days of YouTube? Or have you did you pick up on YouTube later in life and you're kind of used to the new way of how things are done these days? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next one.